You've got a fire in your belly, a passion to serve, and an insatiable drive to contribute. You know that if you can just get your message in front of the right people, you can change lives. But where to start? There are so many options, so many moving pieces. You get bogged down, overwhelmed, frustrated, while the burning desire to serve others consumes you. I know, I've been there. And these days I bring life-changing impact and value to people's lives through the creation of books, funnels, online courses and coaching programs, and virtual summits. This is the Call to Serve podcast. I'm Tim Cooper, and this is my journey. How many times have you heard the decision is final? Well, of course it's final. Otherwise it wouldn't be a decision, right? And before I go further, yes, I did miss recording an episode yesterday. I was fighting with my computer. My computer decided to crash and I couldn't send or receive emails, so I didn't have a choice. I had to take the time to get back online. So apologies for yesterday, and I'll talk more about disruption and things happening a little bit later on. And you may be feeling stuck, and a reason for that could be you've got too many choices and you're overwhelmed and you're not really sure of how to proceed. And in this episode, I want to talk about the difference between choice and decision, choosing or deciding, because there is a major difference between the two. And when you understand it and sort of apply what I'm going to talk about today, you will more than likely find yourself moving forward. The way I understand choice, and look, I may be wrong, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. But the way I understand choice is that it's basically an option, and there is no firm commitment. You're not committing to anything when you make a choice, right? Now, on any particular day, you can choose to do whatever you like. That's the wonderful thing about our freedom of choice, that we can choose what we want to do when we want to do it. Whether it's good or bad, or good for us or bad for us, is irrelevant. We still have that ability to choose. See, I could choose not to eat meat today. But simply choosing not to eat meat today doesn't mean I'm not going to eat meat tomorrow. So I haven't become a vegan by making that choice. When my son had cancer the second time and he was living with me and he was going through chemo, I didn't drink alcohol for 5 years because I was his first point of help if anything went wrong. So if he had to be rushed off to hospital in the middle of the night, I was on standby. I always had to be ready to go. So that wasn't a choice to not drink alcohol. That was a firm decision. And when you decide to do something, you basically cut yourself off from all other options. So all other options are off the table as soon as you make a decision, and then obviously take action to bring that forward. So that's the difference between choosing and deciding. Choosing is that you can change your mind. There's no firm commitment either way. Like if somebody says, what do I prefer? Do I prefer vanilla or chocolate ice cream? Well, I'll choose chocolate because I prefer chocolate over vanilla, but I'm not going to take the action to go and buy some chocolate ice cream. I've just been asked to choose which I prefer out of the two. No firm commitment, no action required. And this is where people get stuck. They don't make a decision. They don't cut themselves off from all other options. They like to keep their options open. And by keeping options open, then you open yourself up to overwhelm, confusion, lack of clarity. There's a book called The Paradox of Choice. And I'm not going to quote exactly because it's been a while since I've read it, but they talk about a jam tasting station at a supermarket. And one day they set up this jam tasting station and they had something like 24 flavors of jam and people were coming along and sampling jam. But they made very, very few sales and they couldn't work out why, because the jam was delicious. And so the next time they set up the jam stand, they only had 6 flavors of jam. And their sales were sizable. Okay, they increased their sales considerably. And the moral of the story is that when you have too many choices, it can be crippling. When you have too many options, sometimes it's hard to choose, especially when everything is so nice. And so too many choices can actually cripple you, can paralyze you, can stop you from moving forward. So you've got to be aware of the paradox of choice. Now, there's a saying that a confused mind does nothing. So once you get to the point where everything is just foggy and just all this information is flowing at you, you just shut down. You can't make a decision. So that's very, very important. A saying, yesterday I couldn't do a podcast episode because my computer crashed. I couldn't send and receive email. The whole computer was a mess. Now, even though I made a decision and a commitment to do a podcast episode every day, there was an overriding decision that had to be made that I had to get my business back online. I couldn't just go another day without being able to send and receive emails. I couldn't go another day without being able to open up the programs I needed to perform the functions I needed to do. And so I didn't have a choice. I had to make a decision. All other options were off the table while I worked on fixing my computer. So now my computer is fixed, problem resolved, and now I can move on. So this is the point when it comes to choice versus decision, right? If you are just making choices, you aren't making any sort of commitment, and you are free to change your mind and choose something else 5 minutes later or the next day or the next week. But when you make a decision, everything else is off the table. You are cut off, right? So that's what to decide means, is to cut off. And so it's either or. You decide on that course of action and then you take action on that decision, right? There's no use just making a decision and going, okay, well, that's what I'm going to do, and then don't do anything, right? Because that comes back to choice. So now you've got to actually take action to bring about that course, that result. So basically a decision is made to resolve or to move forward or to bring about change. But here's the thing. So once you've made a decision and you've taken action and you've shown intent to move forward and resolve, disruption usually follows. It's not always easy street. Just because you've made a decision doesn't mean it's going to be easy sailing. When I first started this podcast and I had problems with the settings on my iPhone and the recordings came out horribly, and it took me a couple of days to work out how to fix the problem and re-encode and everything else. And I could have easily given up. I could have said, that's just too hard. I made this decision, I've made a start, and now here's my first stumbling block. Within hours of starting, this is just too hard. I can give up. But no, I made a commitment. And so, do what you should do when you should do it, whether you want to or not. I spoke about that in a previous episode. So I went on. I used to be a heavy smoker for many, many years. And I knew that I should give up. It wasn't good for me. And I tried and failed many times. As soon as I got stressed or whatever, I'd stick a cigarette in my mouth. But it wasn't until I made that decision, that commitment, that I was going to give up. Then I gave up. And was it hard? Yes, it was hard. I had cravings and everything else, and I had to be strong. I had to be disciplined to get over that. It's like everything when you're making a major change, whether you're dieting or giving up smoking or other things. it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy, but the end result is worthwhile. And that's what you're working towards. You're working towards that end result. So expect disruption, expect things not to go as planned. So how do you get unstuck? Well, firstly, you've got to make a decision, and you've got to commit to it, and you've got to be disciplined to carry it out. You've got to accept that you're going to come across obstacles and problems along the way. And you've got to have that resolve that you're going to work through it and you're going to get to the end. And this is all about building confidence in yourself as well, because if you make a decision and you take action and you weather the storm and you see it through to completion, right? That's the other big thing. You've got to see it through to completion. Then you are being true to your word, you're being true to yourself, and you can trust yourself, you can trust your own word, that you do what you say you are going to do when you're going to do it, whether you like it or not. And that's a big confidence boost as well. So that's my understanding of the difference between choice and decision. And the thing that holds a lot of people back is too much choice, and the failure to make a decision, a failure to cut off and just remove all other options and just focus on one course of action. And then taking action, and so to become unstuck, make a decision, commit to it, and just take the next obvious step you need to take to move forward. Like, you don't have to see the whole path in front of you. Just take the next step you need to take to move you forward. And then once you're at the next step, take the next step. Okay, don't try to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Right? One step at a time, take the staircase. So I hope you found that information useful. If you're watching this on YouTube and you like the content, please hit subscribe and little bell. Give us a thumbs up. There will be a playlist appearing at some point over here, I think. Any feedback, comments, questions, please drop them below. If you're listening to this podcast on another platform and you like the content, please follow the show, give us a review. If there's a way for you to reach out via the platform, please do so. Otherwise, I'm always available at tim@timcooper.au. That's tim@timcooper.au, or you can visit my website at timcooper.au, where you can find all previous episodes, and I'm building it up to include some of my favourite resources, books and other tools that I find useful in my journey. So that's it for the day, and until next time, you take care.